Ann at Luke's in Tri-County. Would like to introduce you today to the Janome Memory Craft 9450. First we'll go through a general description of all the accessories that come with the machine, and then we'll show you a few functions on the machine. Let's start up here with our zigzag foot, general purpose foot. Then we have the over edge, the satin stitch, the blind hem, your zipper foot. Here's the automatic buttonhole foot with the stabilizer plate attached, rolled hem, the open toe satin stitch foot, the darning foot. These next three are all for free motion quilting. This last one is for zigzag free motion. Another button foot. This is the button shank tool. Next to that we have the 1/4 inch with the guide, then the 1/4 inch without a guide, the HP foot for when you have your HP plate on, the dual feed for quilting. Here is one of the plates that come with it. That's for your straight stitch, your 5 bobbins, a set of needles, your screwdriver, your brush for cleaning inside, the quilting guide, seam ripper, you have your caps, small and large, and then you have an extra spool for your thread. All right, let's learn how to thread your first bobbin. We'll have your thread in the holder with your caps on. Bring the thread first around this silver plated guide, up across the back, underneath this second cream colored guide, and you'll see a bobbin up here, a picture of one. We'll bring it over, have your bobbin, place it on the bobbin holder, take your thread, hold it with 2 hands and wind it around a couple of times. Then underneath you'll notice on the flange there is a cutter that you can cut that tail. You throw your tail away. Then you'll take this bobbin and push it against the silver metal like that. Your picture will come up and say bobbin winding. I'll press the pedal, and there we go. All right, let's remove the bobbin from the holder, take it up, and now we'll move down and put it in the bobbin case and get ready to thread it as well. So when you load it, you want your thread going counterclockwise. You'll have a 4 to 6 inch tail here. Let's drop it in. Bring your thread around. It'll fall into that first tension hole, and it almost automatically comes right underneath the second one that you'll pull it on your left up to this where there is an arrow. Bring that around, and then here's a thread cutter where it says number 2, and you're done. It's that easy. All right, let's begin to thread. You'll notice your thread holder here comes with the attached cap on the bottom. I'll drop that thread in there, and then I have a small cap to go on top. I'll lay the thread back down, and then we'll start over here on to the left of your first guide. I go under that guide, come around the back, you'll see number 2. We're going to bring it down here. So we're coming back down from number 2. All of your steps are numbered. Go down to 3, come back up to the uptake. You get around it to the left, and you'll feel it kind of click in there. Bring it back down to 5. When you get down to 5, there's a silver plate. You take your thread behind that, There we go. We're behind it now. And now we'll get into needle threading. So first you want to come over to your key and lock the machine. All right, let's take our thread and put it behind the last guide. We'll bring up the thread between those two guides before we take it back to the thread cutter. Now we'll bring down on the left side, there's a little handle to bring the threader down. Push it through like that. See your loop here? I take my other hand and pull the thread through, and now your machine is threaded. Okay, next we'll put our first foot on, but I need to unlock it from when we threaded it. So I'm using the A foot, the zigzag or general purpose. I'm going to line up that bar with that little crease there. I'm going to press my lower, and you heard how it clicked on. And then I'll raise that again, and your foot is on. If you wanted to change your foot, all you have to do is come back here where there's this black switch. You press it in, and your foot will fall off, and you're ready to put on your new foot. Let's review the front of your machine buttons. First, I want to point out this slider will bring out this extra light. It's really nice when you're doing close-up work here, and you can put it back and it turns it off automatically. Starting down here, the stop button, so when you're stopped, it's actually green, and when you're using it, instead of your foot pedal, then it would be red. The button up from that is your reverse button, then your auto fix button. This is lower and raise your needle, and this one is lower and raise your presser foot, and then the scissors, of course, are your cutting button. And the last slide here is for how fast your foot pedal, the speed of your foot pedal. Okay, on the utility screen, we're going to start on this side and talk about these three tabs. The first one being the file tab for your stitch guide that you can save either to your machine, your USB, and then when you're through, you see the white X on blue, it'll take you right back to the screen. Let's look at our set. This is where you're going to place your settings for your screen contrast, the volume, inches or millimeters, then also your ordinary sewing, the auto tension, how much bobbin thread you have left, and then your needle stop position. And lastly, we have the language. You choose your language on this screen. So we'll get out of there. And then our last one is the auto lock button. So when you're changing your foot or your needle, you want to touch this key to lock it as you make those adjustments. And then when you're done, come back over, touch it again, and you'll be back on the stitch utility screen. Let's start on our first screen of stitches, which is the utility. As you can tell up here, there's one of two. This will show you the stitch, what it looks like. This will give you the suggested foot that you want to use. On this one, it's the A. Down here, it shows you the needle position, your stitch width, and your stitch length. And you can adjust either one of those. And then up here, as I said, this is the first screen of those stitches. If we wanted to see more, I would click on that. Let's go on to our next tab for stitch categories. As you can see here, you have applique, heirloom, quilting, your satin stitches, bridge, decorative. Let's go to the next screen of the same category with your long, your pictograph, and play. We'll get out of there. and go on to our monogram. Okay, on this screen you'll see the different choices. You have block, script, Broadway, block, and we're done on that screen. And the last is your sewing category. And again, when you come into any one of these specifically, let's say we chose the seaming, I'll click on that, then you'll choose the fabric. Let's say we chose woven, and then you're on another screen for that. You keep making your choices. Let's go back. We'll X out of there, and we'll go down to see what other choices they have in this category. We're on page 2 of 2. So your basting, button, tacking, applique, patchwork, and quilting again. And we're back to the seaming. We go back. I'd like to point out a feature of this machine that's really neat, and that is combining stitches. So let's choose this decorative stitch panel, and it gives you all the choices. I'll choose decorative again. When I get to this side, I want to hit this icon once because it puts me in the mode to choose 2 different stitches to have it go at once. I'm going to go over one and see what else is on the panel. I'm going to choose the heart that way, and then I'll choose the heart going horizontally. So I have 2 chosen right now. Let's stitch that out and see how it looks. Before I start, I'd like to point out it mentions the suggested foot for this style of stitch, which is the F open foot for a satin stitch. So I've changed that on the machine. And then the second thing is over here. After I chose my designs, I want to put in a stop after it stitches those 2 out. Otherwise, it would continue to do that continuously. So let's start stitching this out and you'll see what it looks like. I'll lower my feet and my needle and press my pedal. Okay, so it finished. I'll cut the thread, but you saw that it stopped automatically after our second heart. Now we'd like to address maintenance, but before we go there, and while the accessory tray is still on, I'd like to point out this nice ruler down here that comes in inches and centimeters, and that once this is removed, you have a nice arm here for doing pant hems, bags, anything that you need that space around it to be sewing. So I took the tray off, and under here, this button here will lift the plate because that's where we're going to get in it and clean it. So I've lifted this, slide that out. I'll set that aside. I get my brush. I'm also going to be removing the bobbin and the bobbin holder. We'll take those out. I will brush the bobbin holder to get any accumulated lint out of it. Even little lint can cause you some problems. Next, I'll go inside and get the lint that was underneath the bobbin holder. Then I'll look around and see if there's lint in between the screws, by the feed dogs, and that's something you can do maybe every time you start a new project, just to keep this as clean as possible. It will keep your machine running better, longer. When you put the bobbin holder back in, you'll notice there's a little red line here that will line up with the red arrow on the machine. Let's slide that in. I just turned it a little, not a big deal. Now that we have the bobbin case back in, let's put our needle plate on. I'm sliding it under and then clicking it down. And now we can open up the front cover and put our bobbin back in. Remember, our tail comes out to the left. Bring it around to the first tension and underneath your second one. Bring that up, just follow your arrows 1 and 2 till you get to the thread cutter. And put the cover back on, and you're good to go again.